The only way to stop him, you gotta get him in the head.
Stranger Oddities coming back to you. Yes, we're here. Been absent for a little while, but we're back on with you. And we're talking, remakes and whatnot. And so a lot of times, when you think of a remake, it's usually not that good. Usually fails rather miserably. But there's a lot of good remakes out there that actually have definitely stood the test of time and held up and did justice to the originals or whatnot. Sometimes they do remakes because either they, for the good, maybe they have more money, maybe they have better techniques to do things, better actors, you never know. But usually originals are always going to hold up, and you're really not going to be able to top the original. But speaking of remakes, when you look at them, a lot of people do, remakes do get a lot of crap for being rather terrible. But remakes, sequels, same kind of deal. Sequels a lot of times are just, oh great, there's more of it, and that's what we're going to do. One thing I must say, y'all know I love the Dirty Harry series. The Dirty Harry series has got to be some of the best cop movies ever made, right up there with the French Connection. But as much as I love the first Dirty Harry movie, written by John Milius does not get credit for it when he ought to. And he has always said, now I don't think he wrote the entire script or screenplay, but when they ask him, Mr. Milius, what scenes did you write? Or what parts did you have a hand on? And his answer usually is, all the parts you remember. That's right, because Milius, he understands that stuff. So, but in this case, I must say, out of the series, Magnum Force is my favorite. Magnum Force would be my favorite of the bunch, because when they first did the first one, it's obviously that's the trial run. Once they realized they had something really good, they repeated the formula, but for the better. They didn't just give you the same of the same. They changed it around. They gave it a little bit more depth to it. They understood by this point. They understood that not only is Clint Eastwood's character Dirty Harry, not only is Callahan a very significant character in it, so is the 44 Magnum in which he carries, the Smith & Wesson Model 29. That's absolutely, that's the character in itself. That pistol, pistol, revolver, whatever you want to call it. It is just as iconic as his character itself. And they understood that going into it. I mean, if the first opening sequence of that movie does not make you want a true 6.5-inch pinned and recessed Model 29, 44 Magnum, I don't know what will. So, just fantastic stuff. So, remakes, sequels, they're not always that bad. Now, for me, a lot of times when I was growing up, the one way to watch a lot of horror movies, other than to go check them out at a video rental store and beg my parents to rent them, Joe Bob Briggs' Monster Vision on TNT was always on, and that was a fun show, man. I tell you, I used to watch that all the time. I used to get so excited during Halloween because I knew they would do like a full-on a marathon or something, like either Friday the 13th or something like that. So this is the first time I ever saw Night of the Living Dead. Now there's two different ones. Obviously there's a bunch of spin-offs of it, but we're talking about the original George Romero ones. And so I obviously seen the black and white one, and you can't, that's really untouchable. It really is just the king of it all. But we're talking about the remake. Now, interesting enough, when you think about the remake and you hear, well, they remade it, and everybody goes, really? No. Now, George Romero had a hand in the remake. I think he produced it. He helped, get it off the air there, and I'm trying to look at here in the back of the the stuff here. I think yeah, it was obviously written by him and everything, but he gave the director's chair to Tom Savini. Now, if you're a big fan of the 80s slashers and stuff, you should know the name Tom Savini. Tom Savini is what brought us the goodies, the gore, and all of that. Dawn of the Dead, The Prowler, Maniac. Jeez, I mean, you can't name them all. Dawn of the Dead, of course, all that stuff. Eyes of a Stranger, Friday the 13th, Part 1, Part 4. This is all Tom Savini coming around. The Burning, excellent, another Tom Savini one. But Dawn of the Dead, the original we're talking about, I mean, just a bag of fun. Day of the Dead, of course, one of the most graphic zombie movies out there. But anyway, so they gave the George A. Romero gave the director's chair to Tom Savini. Tom Savini said, "Oh wow, okay," because he actually was they were going to have him do the effects for the original black and white one, but Tom Savini ended up going to Vietnam, the war going on, so Tom Savini ended up now directing the remake. In a sense, it's weird because you can almost say, well, question is it really a remake if it's made by this, if it's kind of put together and the idea came from the guy that originally made it? Now, the original Night of the Living Dead was made really over the string of time and them getting together on the weekend and when they had, some spare cash and time to do it. And that's how they filmed it. So, it really is. It's a budgeted movie, and it's absolutely phenomenal. It holds up to the time very well. And of course, they didn't put any copyright on it, so I think that's what happened. They kind of lost out on it. It was all of a sudden everybody started showing it. It wasn't until it just started becoming the late night feature to show Night of the Living Dead. So when this one came out, the remake in 1990, I remember seeing it on the Monster Vision. I always remembered it, being the colored version, because it's a color version. But the cast is unbelievable. Patricia Tallman, she is great in it. She plays a really good Barbara in it. Now, one thing I like about her character versus the old character of Barbara from the first black and white film is Patricia's portrayal of Barbara. She's a lot more heroic. She is just gung-ho. She's like, she's got that Henry lever action rifle, and she's like, is there any more shells for this thing? She's ready to go, man. She is taking them down. They nailed this one guy, and they're like, hey, I can't believe you did that. You shot Mr. Magruder. And she's like, look at his back. I didn't do that to him. Look at his back. Look there. She's really, and he's like, and of course you got, come on, Tony Todd. How do you not love Tony Todd? Candyman and all that. And he's like, you are losing it, girl. She's like, you think so? Because what I lost a long time ago. The movie's just full of awesomeness. Tom Towles is also in it. Interesting because he's in a lot of other movies that I didn't realize it was actually him. Looking back now, I'm going, oh my God, I can't believe that's him in Night of the Living Dead, the remake, 1990. I can't believe, he's in it. Also, Bill Moseley's in it. Bill Moseley's in the beginning. He plays Johnny, so... But the gore effects and everything in it, it's funny as I know that they filmed a lot more than what they actually showed you in the movie, but they ended up cutting out a lot of it. Of course, the ratings and people were jumping all over this. They saw Tom Savini's name and George Romero's name on the same billing with a movie called Night of the Living Dead. They were like, okay, we're definitely going to be on this one. But it wound up being just a fun ride. Always remembered it. I hunted it down on VHS back in the day when I was looking around for it. I was really happy to find it. It took me a while to realize. I was trying to figure out how to find it because I remember buying a few copies of VHS tapes of Night of the Living Dead, and then coming to find out that it was not actually the black or the color version, was the black and white version. So when I had a bunch of these, like 4 or 5 copies of the same movie, until I finally found the colored version on it. I think I found it at Suncoast Video, for those of you that remember good old Suncoast Videos. Now, they're releasing on Blu-ray now. There was another releasing company that did it. I don't remember exactly what their name is, but the thing went out of print. Very expensive if you do find it. But the one I ended up picking up is a reissue release on it by Umbrella Entertainment. It's on Blu-ray, and I picked it up for fairly cheap. Now, it's been some time ago, so I don't know if it's still available or not, but it's definitely worth getting. And one of the cool things on it was when they're talking about it in one of the effects is when the swimmer, he's obviously like a swimming drowning victim or something like that rose from the dead. He comes in there and they're shooting at him, and that's the first time you really see the squibs. And for those of you that don't know what the squibs are, the impacts that whenever somebody takes a bullet hit or something like that, you see all the blood and stuff, jet out of and it's usually on clothing because that's how they pack it in there. But this time they did it on bare flesh, and I don't remember exactly how they did the squibs bursting out of the skin like that, but I do recall what they were talking about when they did the headshot. They actually had in a sense, a very fragile type of paintball, like a glass or some kind of safety thing, and it was filled with the blood, and they just actually kind of spitballed it right onto the actor's head, and just so that's what you see there. Interesting concept. I do recall reading that in the making of it and everything like that. So yeah, the remake of Night of the Living Dead, definitely a top A movie for me, and one to definitely own if you love the whole zombie kind of stuff and going on there. But remake, it still involves all the original and the right people, so really it's a remake for the better. And honestly, as much as sometimes the remakes ruin things, this is one that I'm glad they did do.